All right, family, y'all know what it is, man. It's your boy, Joe Boss on Rise Up Worldwide. And I have the honor and the pleasure of being able to rock and record this interview with your boy, The Truth on Duty on IG
Yes.
and Truth on Duty on Twitter. Y'all
Yeah.
know who he is, man. He's a CHH legend. Probably inspired the majority of what's going on in hip hop right now within the CHH realm. And it's an honor to have you on the show, brother, man. Like I said, I've been a supporter and a fan for a long time, bro. So it's an honor to have you here.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, bro. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's jump right into it, man. So I know you got the new album, Bridges, that you recorded with Limo Blaze. So I know this is the first time that I've known you to do a joint album with somebody. What was that process like?
Yeah, it was just time. For me, it was about putting together a body of work that was reflective of my global experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I've been traveling intercontinentally for just like 1999. So,
Wow. Wow.
I'm the type of artist who kind of can't sit still musically, and I have to be constantly evolving and exploring, and just kind of exploring different musical terrains and worlds. That's just who I am.
Right.
You'll get that if you kind of listen to my body of the entire body of work from 2004 or 99, however far back you go, up to present day. And so this was no different. This was an opportunity for me to kind of just explore another world that I really felt connected to, because the truth is that Africa is a place that I love to go. I've been going every year since like 2007. I've toured there about 15 times, about 35
Wow.
different yeah,
Wow.
about
Okay.
30. Yeah, it's crazy. About 35 different countries. And so I have and when I go up, I'm there 3-4 weeks at a time. So I've built and I've developed a lot of really strong relationships, rich relationships throughout the years. And I've always wanted to do something that was kind of reflective of those experiences. I never knew that it would amount to end up being a Truth Limo Blaze album,
Yeah.
but I'm really that part God did.
Yeah. Yeah.
God did that part, but
Absolutely.
the desire of my heart was to kind of create a body of work that was reflective of my global experience. And then I think also in terms of the collaboration, it was just time.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of this stuff God does providentially. So He's working behind the scenes, unbeknownst to us. And then we kind of, while we are kind of planning and strategizing, on the surface, God is behind the scenes, kind of, impressing things upon our hearts and,
Right.
you
Right.
know, moving the chess pieces, so to speak. And once you come to a synthesis, it's a mixture of what you were doing in your time of in the think tank,
Yeah.
when there was a
Yeah.
meeting, and what God was doing, in the heavens. So
Wow.
so so I,
Amazing.
I think I do really believe that it was a providential work. But on the ground level, when you look at it, is I believe that what we did, it was appropriate, it was necessary, particularly given the fact that we did it during a time where there was so much division.
Mm.
There was so much division, both, politically, so much division, amongst, in the nations, but division in the church, just across the board, all we see is people kind of,
Right.
building walls. And we decided that instead we wanted to build, instead of building barriers, we wanted to build a bridge.
Amen.
And that's reflected in not just the words that we speak, but in the actions that we took, and actually kind of locking arms and coming together on this project. So
Wow, that's
a lot of
amazing.
stuff in there.
So how did you actually meet Limo Blaze? Like
I
what
met
what,
him.
what was that?
Yeah. Well, he's always known me when I listen to him tell the story.
Okay, okay.
He's always known me. He was always at the concerts when I came. when I went to Africa, well, his part of Africa, and
Which
you
is
know, well, he lives in Nigeria.
okay.
Yeah, he lives in Nigeria. Um, but in 2018, his manager Bob Fondo gave me a call, said, "Hey, I have an artist out here, and I'd love for you to do a feature with him." And I said, "Cool. Send me the stuff." And he sent me the song, and I loved it. And felt like, man, this kid is special when I heard that song.
Yeah.
And so we did the feature, but right after, during that time, I told his manager, I said, "Bro, send me everything you got from him."
Yeah.
And so he
Yeah.
just started sending me everything. And so we started talking in 2018 about the possibility of signing Limo. And then that conversation just evolved over the last 2 years. The relationship started building. Limo and I started kind of talking. And it just made a whole lot of sense,
Yeah. Yeah.
for us,
Absolutely.
particularly in light of where we're going as a company, where I'm going as an artist, and a lot of what we see kind of happening in the next 10 years. This was definitely a step in the right direction.
So, is it official? Is he officially signed to you now?
Yes, yeah, we have a partnership. Yep,
Okay.
we have a partnership. My company is an agency, so we don't function as a label anymore
Right.
exclusively. And so Next Agency is really more concerned with building brands than signing artists,
Okay.
and doing
Okay.
brand partnerships. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have a partnership with Limo.
Wow, that's great. I've never heard it quite explained that way. So we as we spoke before, you're no longer with Mixed Bag, and the new agency is called
It's
Next.
Next. Yeah.
What was the process going from Mixed Bag, and as you mentioned, you dissolved it, to now starting Next and being in an agency format? Talk about that for a minute, please.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting. It's been a bit of a paradigm shift, of one that I'm thoroughly enjoying. You
I
know,
can imagine.
yeah, because you get you get so accustomed to operating in one way and thinking in one way,
Mhm, mhm.
that is definitely a learning curve. So, but my business partner and I, probably about a year ago, actually maybe about a year and a half ago, started exploring this idea of becoming more of an agency where we really are kind of full stop. When you come to Next, you know, you're literally everything that you need is provided for you, right? Everything from publicists to musicians, producers, management, etc. Management on different continents. It's like the
Wow.
full gamut. And we felt like that was probably a better direction to go, just because I think it's really just who we are organically. It really happened organically. We just had to take a step back and say, wait a minute, what are we, based on what we're actually doing,
Mhm.
and based on how we think, because again, it goes beyond music. We have tentacles in other spaces as well, in video and film, and so many other kind of arenas right now. So
Right.
it just really, we really just decided to label ourselves on the basis of what we were, the way that we were actually functioning.
Okay. Okay.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And we felt like it was important to expand, to not limit ourselves, because we had so much more to offer than just music services.
Right.
Um, yeah. So it's been really, really, really exciting. The meetings that, even during the pandemic, although the pandemic, was really difficult in some ways, it was awesome in others, because it gave us the space, just not, being quarantined,
Mhm.
at least for those first 3-4 months. It gave us the space and the time to really, really, establish deep roots in that space. And so, yeah, here we are now, Next Agency, and really excited about what the future holds, moving into different continents. That's a big part of what we're doing now. Really excited about that on
Yeah.
so many different levels.
Okay. Okay.
Because it's who we are. Again, I've been touring all these you know, all the I've been touring literally all, and I'm trying to, I say this stuff, I'm like, is there another way to say this where it don't sound like I'm trying to brag? I be trying to, I don't know.
Listen, brag on God for a minute.
But I've been, you know what I'm saying? What I'm trying to say, I'm making these points in context to make a bigger point.
Yeah.
Which is, I've been traveling back and forth to these different continents for so many years, building so many relationships with so many amazing artists and beyond.
Yeah.
That it only makes sense for us to really, at this point, now that we can, by God's grace, we can resource, some of, projects and other things. Now that we're in a position to do that, we're doing it. So,
right.
And we've always wanted to. So it's really cool, man. It's really cool.
Wow, that's a great place. So, what are you, I guess, not doing that you had to do as a label that you're not doing now? Because everything you said, like, to me, being someone who's not a label owner, that you're doing now, what is it that specifically you're not doing, or that you put down, I should say?
In order to run this agency?
Yeah, to run it as an agency different than a label.
Well, it's not anything that you're not doing. It's what you're adding to what you are already doing.
Okay.
You see, okay. So to be a label is part of it. It just depends on where people want to come in to it. You know what I mean? If you're a podcaster and, we see the potential and, obviously your podcast is growing and it's something that makes sense and fits with what we're doing and our vision. For us, it's like, let's see what we can do with this podcast. So let's see what we can do with, it's a wide range of things that now we kind of have tentacles in. So
got you. So
yeah,
I'll take that as an invitation that I'll talk to you after the fact. No, I'm just messing with you, man. But it's good to see that you're venturing into all forms of media. But back to the album. Now, I know that, did you record it before COVID, or was it like during?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay. So much happened during COVID for us.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, we recorded during COVID. We probably started talking about it in June or July.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I love about Limo is he's young and undistracted,
So he's got a lot of energy.
It's got a lot of energy. And, I'm, even though I'm a young OG, I got the same kind of vigor still. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I still, one of the things that Kirk told me, I was talking to Kirk like 2:00 in the morning. He was like, I'm in the studio. And I was like, Dad, bro, you getting it? He was like, and I love what he said. He said, I treat every album like the first. Yeah. I treat every album like the first. And that resonated with me because the same is true for me. Like I treat every project like the first project. Like I give everything to it, and so for us, we started in June or July. We have a similar work ethic. We don't sleep until it's right. And that makes it go fast. And, so we got a lot of quality music done in a short amount of time. So
now did he record here in the States, or he recorded everything?
No, we just tossed. Nope. It's the beauty of technology.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just toss everything back and forth, set up a Dropbox,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of back and forth, a lot of emails, a lot of Dropbox.
I can imagine. In them heavy files.
I still gotta clear it, yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. So for the album, what producers did you work with?
We worked with Mag 44. We worked with T-Babs. We worked with Solomon Plate. These are all guys from on that side.
Okay.
All amazing from Africa. That's right. Yeah, all guys that, again, I've been, I've done shows out there, 1:00 in the morning, leave the show, go to the studio with Mag 44, and just work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So again, I'm so glad we're finally in a position where we can bring all of that experience stuff that I was doing behind the scenes that wasn't documented, wasn't recorded, no cameras are rolling.
Right.
kind of we can like years later we can see all of that kind of coming to fruition and translating into into music and into moments rather, because I feel like Bridges is a moment. It's not just music, it's a moment. It made a splash in a different kind of way, so yeah.
Wow, that's good, and it was definitely different to hear
For sure.
you more on the Afrobeat tip. Now the album was completely dope. I love it. You know what I mean? It's an album that you can definitely just hit play front to back. Every song is official. So let me ask you, how has Next and yourself adapted, to the pandemic? How have you adapted your marketing, and how have you adapted to, obviously you can't get the tour sales and things that you're probably accustomed to. So how have you adapted to that?
Well, I think that for us, to your point, man, there's some things that obviously we've lost, the ability to tour. All the borders are closed, or capacity is limited. And when we tour, especially when we tour overseas, it's outrageous.
Something special.
Yeah, something special. So you want to, I don't want to do a pandemic version of a, of a European African tour,
Right,
I really want to, but it is what it is. So we just kind of roll with the punches. My business partner and I talk a lot about this thing called the Black Swan theory. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but the idea is that most people. I'm so sorry. This is my daughter calling. Hold on a sec. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Yeah. So there's something that I'm not familiar. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, but it's called the Black Swan theory. And the idea is that, so many of us are, let me just go back. So the idea kind of stems from the notion that, there are, when we think about swans, most of the time we think white swans.
Right.
I don't know how many people think about black swans.
Only the movie.
Only the movie.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is that black swans actually exist. They actually exist.
Right.
And just because they're rare doesn't mean that they're not existent. Mm-hmm. And so the Black Swan theory says that so many of us oftentimes build our careers, build our ministries, build our organizations on the white swan theory. In other words, we just assume that everything will always be as it is. Mm-hmm. You see?
Okay.
In other words, if you see, 15 white swans lined up, you might not even look to see what the color of the next swan will be. You're just going to assume it's white.
Just assume it's white, right?
And I think that a lot of times we end up building our careers that way. We build our country, not our country, but a lot of corporations build that way. We just build in light of trends, or we build in light of what's working for us in the moment. What we don't do a great job at is anticipating a worst case scenario. You see what I mean?
Okay.
Something that can turn all of that on its head, right? Like, right. Wall Street could have never prepared for 9/11. Like that would be the black swan. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
The pandemic would be the black swan. We didn't prepare for it. And so what it does is it ends up, when these kind of unforeseen events take place, they sink our companies just because we weren't ready. We never prepared for the black swan. And so for us as a company, that's something we've been preaching to each other for some time now. Yeah.
Right.
And started building our company that way. And so it's crazy. And again, I have to give glory to the Lord for this, because we would have never anticipated this pandemic, but we were working as if we were working in preparation for something else, something other, something different than what we had been doing anyway. So
okay.
we just didn't know. We were already brokering deals in, you know, in certain parts of Africa, video deals though, nothing to do with music.
Wow.
So we actually have partnerships with some of the mainstream, what's the word looking for? Not telecommunications, but like video programming out there, that airs, you know, preaching in the air, podcasts in the air, you know, music videos. So we started those relationships, you know, way before
Wow.
the pandemic. With that
That's
said,
crazy.
I really do. I think that for us, without any knowledge of the pandemic kind of hit coming, we were already kind of getting prepared for it. So when it hit, that's why, by getting, you know, the limo project and all of that, like, just naturally came out of it, organically came out of it, because we were already trekking in that direction. So I think, you know, I feel really good about where we are as a company in the pandemic, and where we're going. Obviously, the tour, things of that nature, you know, it causes some setback, but it doesn't sink us, not by any stretch. So I'm really grateful.
Wow. Now has the pandemic, has it impacted you personally, or family or friends? Like, how have you dealt with it like that, like, on a personal sense?
Yeah, you know what? Thankfully, man, I'm just so grateful. Like, the Lord really sustained us through this. You know, I did a little bit of traveling, but beyond that, just you know, the multiple streams of income was really good for me and my
Amen.
family.
Yeah. Yeah. Having multiple
You
streams
know,
is important.
the multiple streams, bro. You know, you know, obviously, I'm not making what I was,
Of course.
traveling 3/4 of the year or
Yeah.
half the year or whatever. But bro, sometimes you feel like you almost have survivor's remorse,
Wow.
but God's just been faithful, bro. That's all I
Yeah.
can say. God's been faithful, and again, God's been faithful, and we have been diligent, and doing the hard work prior to. So, we've been all right. We've been all right.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
now you've been in the game for a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Probably approaching 20 years now. Close
20
to
plus.
20
plus years.
plus. Wow.
Yeah.
So now, how in the world do you continue, with all the temptation out there, to stay a Christian artist with your level of success? Because I'm pretty sure that major labels have contacted you. You know, you get offers probably from industry execs that could put millions in your pocket, but you still stay on this side of the fence. What's that? How do you maintain that faith?
It's about carving your own lane. I mean, creating your own lane and carving your own space. A good friend of mine, Corey Condrey, really started like pushing that, really kind of stressing that to me some years ago. It took me a while to really wrap my mind around it.
Yeah.
But, it set me on a new course.
Okay.
Because, I think that there's so much more. That's what I'm looking for. It's so much more rewarding, I think, when you create your own. It's slower. It's more rotisserie.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. But it's that much more rewarding when you can see the fruit of your labor.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things I realized is that, and listen, if a company comes to me and offers me $4 million, that's not to say I wouldn't be open to it. Right. I'm totally open to the conversation. But here's what I also know: if you offer me $4 million, it's probably worth 40. And I've learned that along the way. And again, it's not bad if you take them $4 million if you know what to do with it. So I'm not mad when people are like, "Can you believe you know, BET sold the rights to Viacom. And I'm like, yeah, you know,
right.
I can't believe it. You know,
right.
He offered him $3 million on top of the 6 he already had in the bank. In his mind, he knows what he wants to do with the 9. Yeah.
right.
You know, sometimes you play the long game, sometimes you play the short game. It's really just more about what you need and what makes sense for you, you know?
Right.
So for me, I think that, you know, you're right. We've sat in front of all the execs and we've hated the deals that they've offered us. You know, we hated the amount of time that they wanted to lock us into the deals. And for the amount of albums that we like, this is for the birds, bro. Like, it might take us a little longer to get there, but it makes so much more sense for us to do this rather than that. And so I think that for us, it's not really as tempting. It's not really tempting. It's never been really, honestly. You know, we're able to win without them. You know, we my company is raging against the machine.
right. Literally.
We're raging. Listen, you know how many majors have called us since we dropped Bridges?
Wow. I can imagine. I mean, it's a dope album. To have a joint album with someone in Africa who's basically unknown in the States, but now you've opened up major doors for him and probably for yourself as well.
Yep. So it sets a precedent for a new space that has not yet been occupied, but people can see this is where we're going. And that's why my company is called Next, because it's really about setting the precedent. It's about the Black Swan theory. It's about doing what's not happening. It's about not being a slave to the now. You see what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's where we are, man. And I, you know, if I had to bet, I'd bet on the vision.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I bet on our vision all day and night. I bet on where we're going. When we get all these phone calls from all these majors, what it tells me is that we're doing something right. Because we're small fish, you know, comparatively speaking. In other words, on paper, we're no Capital, you know, we're no Sony.
Right.
But Sony's calling us and Capital's calling us. What that tells me is that we're doing something right. You see? So yeah, that's where we are. That's where we are right now.
Wow, that's amazing. So now with the Bridges album, you mentioned that you came up with the concept because, as you said, people were building walls. You decided to build bridges. So was that the idea behind the title song Bridges?
Yeah, it just made a lot of sense, you know. Just like I said, in light of the climate that we were in, you know, it went. I forget. A lot of times, I think it was Big Sean that was talking about the way that they put together the. I don't know which album it was, but I think it was the collaboration album they did. He said they spent most of their day talking. You see, and I found that this has worked for myself as well. When putting projects together, you spend most of your time talking. Actually, you don't spend most of your time creating.
Yeah,
you see what I mean? The creativity comes out of the conversations. Yeah, especially if you're a cerebral writer. You know what I mean? Like if you're not just writing the first thing that comes to your mind. You know, you think about a Big Sean, he's a thinker. You know, you think about a Kanye, the thinkers. Pusha T. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think the same was true for us. You know, it's as we were talking, you know, the more conversation we had, the more we got clarity of vision of what this needed to be, what it needed to be called, the approach we needed to take. Once you get that as an artist, you have that framework, it's off to the races from there.
Wow. So my personal favorite track on that album is Stupid Love. Yeah. Because like, can you just break down the concept behind Stupid Love? Because it's a dope song and I understand it kind of on a listener's level, but I want to hear like from you, like how did you even come up with that concept?
Yeah, Limo Blaze came up with the concept. I think that it's the equivalent of our version, Corey Asbury's version of Reckless Love, which
Okay.
interestingly enough, caught some flack. He caught some flack for that song. That people didn't, like the idea of God, anything having to do with God being associated with the idea of anything being reckless.
Okay.
So he caught some flack for that, just like I anticipated some flack for the stupid part.
Yeah.
Which we did get a little bit of that.
Of course, you have your extra.
Are you saying the love of God is stupid? No, what we're saying is that it can be perceived as such. In the same way that when Paul the Apostle talks about the wisdom of God, he says the wisdom of God is foolishness. Now, is God's wisdom foolish? No. But it is perceived to be based on what we think to be wise. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so the love of God similarly can be perceived to be reckless, by human standards. It's stupid. It's foolish. It forsakes all. It has no consideration for, it's willing to take a risk. Like it's risky. Like God stands to not be, every time God loves us, he's taken a risk on us not responding in kind.
Wow.
How many people don't love God back?
Wow. It's almost like when you tell somebody I love you for the first time, you don't know if you're gonna get that response.
Yeah, you you bite your nails internally.
Wow.
And so it's not that the love of God is stupid, it's that it can be perceived as such.
Yeah.
And it's not that the love of God is reckless, but it can be perceived as such. Because it's so willing to abandon and forsake all for the sake of the other.
Wow.
And so that's kind of like the heart of stupid love.
Wow. And by worldly standards, that would be considered stupid by worldly standards. Like, you're gonna give up all of this for that person?
For that?
It wouldn't even be, he wouldn't even call you a person. They just say for that. Like totally devalue you, but God values you that much. And that's amazing. So on this album, what would you say is your favorite album? I mean, your favorite song on the album?
Day to Day is different, but I like Samoe.
Okay.
Because I think Samoe is, it's that big bro moment,
Yeah.
And I really am enjoying the occupying the young OG kind of space, So I really love that about the song. And while at the same time, you get to hear Limo talk about his love for the Lord and his commitment to being faithful to him throughout the journey.
Yeah.
And then I kind of get to come in as the big bro who's been on the journey for for a much longer time, than Limo has, and I get to kind of pour in from my experience.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I try to offer a bit of a balanced perspective. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I think I would say that, today that's my favorite.
Wow, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So I want to ask you now, I guess moving a little forward, you got the Bridges project out. Can we expect another solo project coming soon?
Yeah, bro. I got some stuff. I got some stuff.
I can feel like you're being a little vague about it.
Yeah, I got some stuff, bro. I got a couple. I'm looking. I hope to release 2 this year.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I hope to release 2. One is a really big one that I have. I already got Todd Delaney on it. I already got Yolanda Adams. I already got Dante Bowe already got. Like it's just shaping up to be something. I got PJ Morton on it. It's just crazy right now.
Wow.
It's just crazy.
Sounds
So
epic.
So it's one. That one is a big one. That's
Okay.
a really big one that I'm excited about. And then I'm working on something. I believe the title is going to be Skeptic.
Okay.
And it's just kind of I'm still working it out, but it's I don't know if you remember Complicated, but it's complicated. Where I'm just kind of speaking from I'm speaking into a lot of the skepticism that people have around Christianity.
Yeah.
So this is kind of that again, but very different. So yeah, this
Wow.
yeah.
So Skeptic is the second album.
That's the first one. The next one is going to be a little further down the line because that one is obviously so big. That one's going to need a whole lot of attention. So
okay. And so, do you have a name for that one yet or no?
I can give you the working title.
Okay, working title.
God.
Wow. Simple, straightforward. I like it. Okay. I like it. So now, I know that you're a person who's considered woke, right? How do you feel about, the Capitol riots and things that have been going on recently?
Yeah, I don't know if I consider myself woke because when I think about people who consider themselves woke, they it seems like they seem to be consumed, and not in a negative way.
Okay.
But just consumed with all things pertaining to race, politics.
I mean, that would be like a fanatic. I wouldn't say that, but you're definitely aware of what's going on.
I'm aware for sure. Yeah. I am aware for sure. So, it's disheartening. It's frustrating.
Yeah.
To see obviously the discrepancy between how the response to the Black Lives Matter protests and the Capitol riots, or both riots, let's just say, because the Black Lives Matter was a protest. Some protested, some rioted.
Yeah, it was.
But radically different, which was to be expected, but to experience it is still, there's no less frustrating. So obviously, it's just frustrating in some ways just to see that this is where we still are.
You're breaking up a little bit.
But it is to be expected at the same time. Can you hear me now?
Okay, yes. Got you.
Okay, I'm good now?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah. So it's frustrating, but it's to be expected. Like, I'm not surprised. But again, it's frustrating. And then to see how many evangelical leaders, I saw yesterday, a friend of mine posted the pastor who was cursing anybody who voted for President Biden.
Wow.
Oh yeah, he said, "I curse you. Your family be cursed. Your body cursed."
Wow.
And with that, obviously, all that does is, perpetuate the narrative. Christian nationalism is, as Flame says, another gospel. It really is. It's really another gospel. It's this weird synchronization of God and country, where we think of our America as a theocracy and not a democracy.
Yeah.
Which I think is where the confusion is. Even when we talk about who ends up, the people that end up in office being God's pick, a lot of times we're appealing to or citing, passages from the book of Daniel. The Bible talks about how God raises up and deposes kings, etc. And we've seen him do that obviously throughout the course of redemptive history. Mm-hmm. But he did that in the context of theocratic, governments.
Yes.
So that made a lot of sense. And it also made a lot of sense given the fact that he actually, his original intent was to be their king, to be the king of Israel. And then they opted to kind of vote him out of office and bring in their own king. From that point forward, which their first king was Saul. And then from that point forward, God actually had to help them along and kind of work with them based on what they had, the trend that they had started. Okay, you want a king now? And from that point forward, God has to raise up and depose, ultimately, right? And but I think that we conflate our democracy with God's theocracy. Now, there will be a theocracy once again when Jesus sits on the throne, assumes the position of king. The king, he is the King of Kings. But when he's seated, in the New Jerusalem, as the king over all of the earth once again. But until then, we no longer have a theocracy. We have a democracy. And so we're not looking for God to put people in office. We actually do it. So I just, but to see so many white evangelicals get this confused, and then to see this lopsided kind of understanding of the heart of God, to have so pigeonholed God into having, we've pigeonholed God into this place where we think him to be preoccupied with a few sins, like a few different types of sin.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So we think that God's preoccupation is abortion and homosexuality. That's what we think God's preoccupation is. And every other sin, corruption and injustice and,
Right.
In fact, when a lot of people think that the issue in Sodom, it was with the Sodomites, in the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, was homosexuality. That's why God destroyed the land. And I'm not saying that the land wasn't defiled,
Right.
but it wasn't only homosexuality. When you read Ezekiel 18, it actually provides more context for what was going on there. And it says that Sodom was a place that was greedy and corrupt, filled with injustice. Mm-hmm. So when God destroys Sodom, it's not because of homosexuality exclusively, if homosexuality at all. And that's not to say that God doesn't have a problem with homosexuality, but it is to say that that's not the only sin that he has a problem with. And so you look, this is the last thing I'm gonna say, you look at what Jesus has to say in Matthew 23. He says, you have tithed, mint and cumin and dill. He said, but you've forsaken the weightier matters of, which I love what Jesus does there. What Jesus essentially says is, listen, both should be equally as much of a priority, because then he goes on to say, after he says that, he says, you've forsaken the weightier matters of mercy and justice. He goes on to say, I say to you, do both. I love that. Wow. Jesus lays it out, he makes it very clear. Listen, listen, I'm not here to say that that homosexuality is not a conversation that we need to be having. Neither am I here to say that justice is not a conversation that we need to be having. What I'm here to say is that both are equally important and both equally a priority from my vantage point. So anyway, there's so much that I can say about this. So many more things that I can say. I can talk about, the fact that a lot of, white people are convinced that they built this country belongs to them, and have a sense of entitlement. And it's just so much to say about it, but it is disheartening to see where the church sits in all of this. And I think that if I were to try to be solution oriented, I think that we have to begin at the very least to have these conversations and a really have the hard conversations in a really meaningful way. I know everybody can post a meme and everybody can post, their ideas and their thoughts on social media, but I just feel like the leaders, both white, black, and black alike, just need to have a meeting of the minds, in the elephant room, as a starting point to begin the healing process and to begin to help each other with how to understand where ethnicity and our faith intersect and are integrated. So
okay, so I know we're getting short on time. I only have just 2 more questions for you, and then we'll wrap it up because I don't want to, belabor the day. Complicated-ish, the podcast you have now. How did you get that started with the Flame? And tell me a little bit about that. I mean, I'm a listener, but I'd love to.
That's just. No, it's all good. No, it just kind of happened. We were coming together at the time to do an album, and
a joint album.
It was kind of Flame was joint album. Yeah.
Nice. Legend.
Yeah. And so I'm in so we just doing what we do. We having fun. We rolling all over the floor. We laughing. We joking. We talking serious. We eating. That's all we do all day. Like when we together, that's just it. It's just laughter, deep conversations, eating, Netflix. Like it's the whole thing. Like we stay up like 14 hours like a day when we together. It's insane.
Wow.
But we're just talking. We were just just doing what we do. And then Flame was like, he was already thinking about a podcast, and he just asked me like, bro, partner with me, and I told him, I said, bro,
you're breaking up.
I was already there. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's like a pause, almost like when you move around, it's like kind of like glitching a little bit. I don't know if it's like the wild.
Okay, I'll try to stay still.
Okay.
So I told him, I said, bro, it's crazy. I was already thinking about that. And we had started talking when we went through the Katy Perry trial. I don't know if you knew I was a part of the Katy Perry.
I didn't know you were a part of it. I knew about it.
When we went through the Katy Perry trial, we were together in that song. So we were together in Cali, for a minute going through that trial. And during that time, he and I were talking, and I was stressing to him. And this was the second time I had a hard talk with Flame. A long talk about the world needs to hear your voice. You're too brilliant for us to not hear. Everybody needs to hear this. So I think once we came together to work, what do you think about being apart? And literally in that moment, it just happened. I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to. It just happened in that moment. That was December. In January, I flew back to Tampa. We shot the first episode. We first shot the
just like
first
that
season. I'm about to fly back out there for season 3. So it's literally, we just went full steam ahead. Just like taking off in different countries. They're about to start airing it in February in Africa on national television. So on cable television. So that's another thing that's really going down. So we got a lot of stuff going on, bro.
That's crazy.
God's
crazy.
been truly gracious and faithful to us.
Praise God, man. I'm glad you guys are having so much success with it. It really is a great show, man. And I'm looking forward, to support it and everything, man. If there's anything we can do over here, Rise Up, we'd love to support you, The last question that I'm going to ask you is, how do you
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. How do you maintain your prayer life? Like, what is your time like with God?
You know what? I think a lot about that. I actually feel like I remember Ravi being asked in an interview, something similar, but not about prayer specifically. Just somebody asked them, what would you want to do better? Like, what area would you want to improve in? He said prayer and reading the Bible. Now you would think, out of all the people on earth, Ravi would not be the person.
Ravi Zacharias?
Reading, yes, right, yes, okay. Ravi Zacharias, yeah. Okay. Reading, but I feel like that right now, this season of my life. And so I have been really trying to be more intentional about prayer. I think that I pray a lot, obviously, just in the rhythm of life.
Right.
But in terms of consecration, spending consecrated time in prayer, that's an area where I can improve. But if I had to tell you what I do now, for example, last night, my wife was on the phone in one room, my daughter was upstairs. I was like, this is my time.
Yeah.
So I took some time, man. I just started really looking to the Lord. When I feel heavily impressed upon, I don't ignore that. I press into the presence of God. But I want to get back to a place. I used to rise up 4 a.m. every morning. So that's the point of reference that I have right now.
Wow.
So I do want to kind of get back to that, at least for a season, especially going into this next season of my life. I'm going to be one of the pastors at Hillsong Atlanta.
Right. Wow. Congrats.
Yeah. So, yeah, thanks, bro. So pastor of creative arts and worship, and then pastor of apologetics. So I'm feeling the weight of all of that.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm feeling the weight of all of that now. And that's driving me to my knees in a different kind of way. So, so that's why I am.
That apologetics is something serious. That's when you're literally arguing for the existence of God.
Yeah, well, you're arguing for that the existence of God is one of the things that you find yourself arguing for, and what you find yourself really arguing is the Christian perspective on all things pertaining to life and godliness. That's what you find yourself, because it spans across everything, ranging from the existence of God to sex and sexuality. You understand what I'm saying? Is God anti-gay? Well, I think it's important to have reasonable conversations, kind of exploring every facet of sexuality, because it starts with God. It starts, and for people who are, nobody can be any different or go any farther than what they believe about God. And so there are people that, when it comes to the issue of sexuality, their starting point is God is non-binary, which essentially means that he's neither male or female because he's spirit.
Right.
And so, right. And if you have that as a foundational piece to your argument, then, it's important that the Christian knows, and I'm not saying that those people are not Christians, because some of them are, but it's important that the Christians who are on the other side of that argument, have a solid reasoned argumentation on the other side.
Wow.
And in order for the conversation to be, what's what I'm looking for? In order for the conversation to be fruitful, or for the conversation to have any legs, it's important that you be prepared to speak to these issues from a number of different angles. So that's what apologetics does. It's a wide range.
Wow. I'd love to hear this, and I hope there's something that you, when you are apologeticing, I don't know if that's how if that's how you would call it, but when you're in that realm, I hope it's something that's recorded so that we can follow and support and
absolutely,
and learn from.
Hillsong, they do Hillsong does everything on a high level. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. Having access to all these cameras.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the video team, and so totally excited about that.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, listen, man, thank you so much for taking time out to be on the show with me, man. I really appreciate everything. You gave us so much knowledge, biblically based. You gave us a lot of information about the album and how it came forth, man. I just want to say that I'm humbled, and I'm very edified by this meeting with you and this interview.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for having me. Look to talk again, man.
Appreciate it, man. I again, thank you so much. And we'll get you on sometime in the future, man, when these next albums come out. We'll definitely do this again.
Yes, sir. Let's go.
All right.